Hey garden friends, today we are going to talk no transplant winter sowing. I know you're familiar or have heard a lot about winter sowing and use it in containers. This will also be in containers, but I'll show you how you can do it where you do not have to transplant the seedlings once they come up. They can stay where they are. It's pretty easy and it may surprise you how simple it is. I'll show you my tricks. All right, let's get rolling. Yeah, winter sowing is one of the easiest ways to get an abundance of flowers on a dime. And that means budget. And yeah, there's a lot of, I love using the milk jugs. And you could even use part of the milk jugs for this if you wanted, but I'll show you what I use and what I do and what keeps it super budget friendly and easy. So first of all, I am going to plant. Let me grab my seeds. I have them over here. I don't know, can you see my, yeah, you can see my dwarf Alberta spruce. I have 2 of them, and I planted them in containers. I did a video called it my faux gate because I had one on each side. And I'll show you something really quick before we get going. I'll talk about my seeds, but let me show you this. So here is one Alberta spruce, and then there is the other. Do you notice the one over here is quite a bit taller? Let me get back over here so I talk to you. I'm not sure why. Though one was in more sun than the other one, so that could be it. And they were too heavy for me to switch around. So this year I'm going to put them somewhere different. And right now I have them up on the back deck because I can see them from my slider. And I just enjoy looking at them on each side of my bench. I pulled my benches up here to treat with a deck stain so they would preserve them. And I just left them here because I like looking out at them with the trees. The rest of my deck is kind of mayhem, but this looks pretty. Anyways, the seeds I'm going to winter sow today. These are older seeds. One is from 2022, the other's from 2023. So I'm going to sow them a little bit heavily. One is Madam Butterfly Cherry Bronze, Snapdragon, and the other one is Madam Butterfly Rose. Snapdragons, these ones are supposedly annuals. The other Snapdragons I have planted have turned out to be perennials. But I will just take their word for it that these ones are annuals because there can be both perennial and annuals of certain varieties of plants. But I'm going to show you how I'm going to winter sow them. And they should do just fine. Like I said, the older one, this one, which is the Cherry Bronze, I'm going to sow a little bit more heavily. And let's go over to the container I'm going to sow them into. Okay, here's the galvanized tub I have to put this in. And this has had petunias in it that I let just fade away as fall came. And I'm not going to yank them out. It's okay. The roots will just rot away in here. And I need to go get my clippers. I didn't bring them. Had to go get those. I have a little bushel basket down here and putting the cuttings in. So I'm just going to cut this back. This has just been sitting over here on the deck. This has, one moment, get the pine needles off here, a hole right here. This is where I had an Oya pot, and I have a whole video on the Oya pots. And I liked it in the container because I didn't have a drip system or anything for the container, and it keeps the soil evenly moist through the summer. And I just keep it filled up, and sometimes I will actually water the pot too. Pine trees sprouting in here, I don't want. Tons of pine trees sprouting. Look at those roots already. And I have some, looks like tulips coming up in here. I don't know, or daffodils, could be either. Because I had things in these containers. Then I had just topped it up in the spring and planted some petunias in here. Some I may have started from seed, I don't know. I can't remember. Might have been some I picked up on the bargain rack at Lowe's. All right, so then I will just scruff up the surface and maybe I'll top it, yeah, I'll top it with a little bit of fresh compost. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of scruff the surface around. I'm going to leave this hole here so I can put that Oya pot back in here and not accidentally plant something there. And That way it's all good. I removed them because with the freeze and thaw, they could crack and break, and I didn't want that to happen. So I put them in the basement for the winter, and I'm just going to leave that spot clear for it. So I'm just going to sprinkle any seeds, those pine seeds, I'm going to pull up if I see them. Sprinkle a fresh compost around the top. This gives it a little bit of refreshment to the soil. This soil was really good when I put it in here. It's a mix of the turkey compost that I get. I sometimes use a little bit of perlite to keep it lighter, not get too compacted. Now, snapdragons like light to germinate. Surface sow into open container 8 to 10 weeks before last frost, but we're winter sowing. So we're going to go ahead and winter sow them. Now, for a top, before I put these in here, you know how we make containers for winter sowing, but here I'm going to use one of these Dollar Tree baskets. You can use something similar if you have it to create a top. And then during the winter, while it's raining and what have you, I will not cover this. But when it starts to warm up, then I will get some plastic sheeting that I have. I have tons that I used to cover the greenhouse with and what have you. I just have it folded up. And then I will drape it over this and put a stone on here. And that will create the greenhouse effect that you would get like you would in a milk jug or other container for winter sowing. So I am going to right now, this is the old seed, so I'm going to heavily sow these. What I have left. I had sowed some of these last year, and I accidentally didn't get them out in time, so they died. That was my bad. I do that sometimes when I got too much going on, and it just happens. So this year I was going to try so hard not to make too much work for myself with all the winter sowing in containers, because then you have to transplant them. And if you're busy at transplanting time, then all your winter sowing efforts went for naught. Okay, that was all that was left in here. Now, being these are older seeds, and I did not have them in like a controlled environment that was best for keeping seeds fresh, I may not get anything. But you know what? I know those petunias reseeded in here, and they will come up come this summer. It'll just take them longer to come up than if you bought and bloom than if you bought petunias at a garden center. So, as I said, the plan is to use this to create the greenhouse effect later on in the season, not right away. So I'm just going to press the seeds into the compost that I put on top. You can use potting soil. I would not recommend seed starting mix. It just is not, it's not the best. I prefer not using it, and I prefer organic. I don't like the ones that have synthetic fertilizers in them. That is my choice, my personal preference. And one thing about it, synthetics promote growth that is more pest alluring because of the way it, I should say, overstimulates the plants. So if you really want a healthy plant that will resist pest attack, then go with an organic. It will do much better. Some people may dispute that, but that's been personal experience, and the research I've done has showed that organically grown plants are much tougher and more resistant to pest attack than those are that you use synthetic fertilizers with. So I actually smushed a leaf right there of, see, that's probably a daffodil, because I don't think I planted a lot of tulips last year. I've got to get my tulips out of the basement. I've got some to get planted, and I need to pull up some containers. Okay, I did make a tag. So that one was Butterfly Cherry Bronze. So this is this one. These, I made these for the suggestions of you viewers. This is a daisy sour cream tub that I cut into strips, made a pointy end to be able to poke it down easily into the container. that will remind me what I planted in here, because by the time it comes around that they're going to germinate, I will have forgotten. I swear I will have. Okay, so I have another tub back here. We're going to move back there and we're going to plant the other one. Okay, let's get this one done. This is the one I'm going to put the Madam Butterfly Rose in. First, I got to cut back. This had alyssum in it that grew back from last year. And I just left it because it reseeds in here. And I will get a ton more alyssum in here. So when these snapdragons come up and bloom, at the feet, they will have alyssum. Yeah, many things. I let a lot of things just stay. I mean, it looks kind of scruffy through the winter. And a lot of people would have cleaned these out and, you know, done something different in them. But I like getting free plants, and so I don't mind. In fact, there's little baby plants already underneath this old foliage. So again, I'm going to go just along here. Try to avoid the little baby alyssums that have already started coming up. Pull out the pine needles. Not that I won't get more, because when the wind blows, I have pine trees all the way around me, so I will constantly be getting pine needles all winter long and into spring. And the little things that come off of the cedar tree. Okay, so this one is a year fresher, but still is on the older side, and I haven't been taking good care of them. So just like the other, I'm going to go ahead and use them up. There's no reason to overwinter them or keep them over any longer. And the more I sow, the more success I will have with these. So I'm just going to sow them all the way around, sprinkle them as thinly as possible, spread them around. Whoops, I forgot to put the fresh down. Okay, they do like a bit of light, so I got to do this lightly. I meant to put this in beforehand. I got ahead of myself there. It's not the end of the world. It'll be fine, because when it rains, and it rains hard, and it's going to pound this down, some of them will come surface up because of the soil being moved around. So here's my tag. Put that in there. And again, you know, this looks like it might be some alliums or the daffodils. It will be a little bit tougher to put the cover on this one, so it may just get left out. And many seeds, just like the alyssum, even though they've been out without a cover, they will go ahead and sprout and bloom for you just fine. I was just reading a science, well, it's a book on the natural science, that's what it was. And it was talking about how some of the seeds, they need a warm, moist period before they get the cold stratification period. And I found that so interesting, because it was the enzymes and stuff breaking down in the warm, moist soil, and then it getting cold, and it finishes that stratification process in the cold. And that explained to me why so many of my seeds I can start in the fall. I just throw them out in the fall, they start to do their thing, and then the cold comes, they just kind of sit there dormant, and then they just come back bigger and better, or they just germinate so much better than anything I start inside, and they are much tougher plants, and they just do beautifully. So that is my no transplant winter sowing. Now you can do this with many things, almost anything you winter sow, you can do this way. Yeah, you don't have to have the tubs or the jugs or whatever, just something to keep it up, a cover up on it. Like, even you can use the milk jug, cut the bottom out, and then set it down. But you need something to keep it steady, because with wind and whatever, you didn't want it to blow off. But anything that would act as a frame for the plastic cover that you put on it will work. You don't have to have the Dollar Tree things. They just make a great, inexpensive tool. I think both of them were $1.25 a piece, and they'll work perfectly for this. And as I said, when I set it on it, put the plastic on it, I'd put a stone on it to keep it in place for a while. So I will do more of this, because I have more tubs sitting around, and later on, as things are coming to germination, I will share with you what I have planted this way. But I wanted to give you an update on my Dollar Tree lettuce I planted. And look how great it's doing. Look at that. Aren't they beautiful? I got a little grub on them from it being close to here while I was working. But yeah, I'm going to put these up into a little bit larger pots so they can grow on a little bit larger, and then we can actually eat from these. They're not ready to go out in the garden. It's because it's still too cold. I only started them just to show you that the Dollar Tree seeds really are viable and a good choice for you, an inexpensive choice especially. So yeah, that was Murphy's Grand Lettuce. I think that's what it was. Yeah, Murphy's Grand Lettuce from Dollar Tree, American Seed Company. Now I have to confess, the zinnias, after they came up, they were on the back of my light shelf, and I let them dry out, and they all died except for one. But that was my bad. It had nothing to do with the seeds. So that's just what happens when life gets crazy and you're doing too many things at once. That's why a lot of times I won't start things like that, especially things like that I can't plant out till May or June, late May or June, because I don't have room on my light rack for everything I want to grow and get started. And two, you know, it's time consuming to take care of them that long before you can put them out in the garden. So many things like tomatoes, peppers, I will start pretty soon because they take so long, but I want room on my rack for those. But the tomatoes I won't start until March. Other things that like it warmer, I will not start until March and April, because here I can't plant out till, as I said, after May. So other places where you can put them outside sooner, you can start sooner and be successful and not have to take care of them for that long indoors. Now another winter sowing hack is with poppies. This was a vial of Lauren's grape poppies that I had collected from my poppies last year. Now, normally we have snow on the ground this time of year, but even though we don't, I had gone, and I didn't want to wait to be able to video it, but I just opened up. Now this was, I would say I had maybe ½ inch worth of seeds in here, which is a lot of seeds for poppies. And I just took them out and I just spread them all in this flower bed right before it rained. I knew the rain, and the rain coming off the roof especially, would really pound here. And that drives the poppies down into the soil where they have good connection, but also they love the cool. They love being sown in the cool weather. You can also wait further into the spring if you like. It doesn't have to be in the winter, though it is a very good time to do it. Now, many of my poppies will reseed themselves, and they do that in the fall. So if you want to spread seeds in the fall, that is also an option. But this is another no transplant winter sowing hack that I use for getting tons and tons of poppies. I do this with oriental poppies. I do this with the tall opium poppies. I do this with the, not the opium poppies, but the bread seed poppies. And I do it with like the California poppies and the Shirley poppies. It works the same for all of them. And if some come up too thickly, you can transplant them. Now, how I do that is I will get my little shovel. It's my child-sized shovel that I use a lot. It's really good for me on my back as an older person. But I'll just dig down with that shovel. I'll go the full length of the shovel, which is probably about that deep. So what would that be, 6 inches? And I go underneath them when they're very small. And then I'll pick up the whole clump and I'll put them somewhere else, and the others will grow in around. Now, I don't try to transplant them out individually. I will just take the whole clump and place them somewhere else, and they will grow up together, they will bloom, and then you can collect more seed. Now, some people will mix sand with the seeds and then disperse them. With me, it hasn't really mattered one way or the other. I just like to sow a lot of seeds to get a lot of plants. And then if some fail, then you've got the others to fall back on, and or you can transplant some to other areas you want them. But I have even transplanted oriental poppies, and I have a video of it, when it was larger, and you're not supposed to be able to do that. And with the digging down deep and getting beneath the root as much as I could, because they have a deep tap root, I dug it up and moved it. It looked really sad at first, but it came back and it bloomed. So it is possible. So if something comes up in an area you don't want it, give it a try. You never know what's going to work. But that is another of my direct sowing hacks for winter. And a lot of things you can still, like echinacea. We'll sow some echinacea seeds directly in a flower bed, and I'll show you how I do that. So here's a raised bed that I use for planting things like this, like the echinacea. Now over here, looks like I have some foxglove seeds coming up, but I know I have white swan echinacea planted in here. So that I can recognize that these ones are Cheyenne Spirit, I'm gonna put them on this side. Now, I don't mind that there's daffodils and other bulbs coming up in here. Looks like tulips. A lot of, to fill this, I emptied tubs that I had bulbs planted in here, and those bulbs went ahead and are coming back. So even though they just got tossed in here, they are coming back. Now I'm going to seed these fairly thickly again, like I did the snapdragons, because they are older. This is from 2023. Many of them should still be viable. Now this soil down here is frozen. See, it's hard. So that's why I'm going ahead and I brought some more soil to put on top and just give them a little layer. Doesn't have to be too thick. If you looked right down here, I don't know if you can see this, but that's a larkspur that's coming up volunteer in here, and here's a strawberry. And you can see it's pretty hard. There's some gladiolas in there. But the echinaceas will be perfectly fine. They will get rained in this week. I'm not even going to press them down because rain will do a good job in doing that. And yeah, I probably, as soon as the soil's soft enough, I probably will transplant those foxgloves out of there. They probably came from that foxglove that's behind this bed. And let me see in here. I didn't even look to see. Oh yeah, good and visible. But anyway, so they will be fine. Get rained in. And this bed, if I want to, if you can see right back there is the foxglove parent. But if I want to, I could, when it starts to become sunnier and warmer in the spring, put a like Sterlite or a Rubbermaid clear plastic tub over top of the seeds, and they will then warm up faster and then germinate faster. But you don't have to. You can just wait and let them do their thing on their own, and they will come up and then they will bloom so pretty. Now, I probably will just use this as a nursery bed. And what I mean by that is I will get the seeds started, the plants come up, and then I will transplant them to other areas of the garden. I'm just using this as a place to direct sow them in the winter, let them come up, and then I'll transplant them elsewhere. But I could leave them here if I so desired. But I do use this to start seeds in a dedicated area and then transplant elsewhere. And so I don't have to do it in pots and containers under lights or anything else. This bed is my nursery bed. So I hope you found this helpful. I am going to, this one will probably stay up here on this table. The other one I will probably find a spot for out here on my back deck. And next time I'll probably be in the greenhouse with you because it's going to get colder again. And I don't do cold. And I will see you in my next video.